The number is 372. It's actually 614-372-5102. And Klaus Schwab, there he is.
This fourth industrial revolution is, it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you if you take genetic editing.
Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people.
So, Klaus, given what you and your advisor have said, how do you feel about controlling every person on the planet?
I'm so happy.
Dude, that's pretty heavy.
And what's the best way to do it? From my research so far, now it gets into so you have all these different forms of mind control. And let me get this cleared. We got basically magnogenetics on top of optogenetics. So it would be using magnets to actually control a mouse or any type of mammalian species with this gene editing, using actual gene therapy, quote unquote. So let's check this out real quick. Carl Disseroth. With the last video I did had him in it from 4 years ago, and it's weird because like I released my video a week ago exactly, and he did a video a day after I released a video, so it was really weird. So let me look this up. I gotta scroll over and look. There's like no views. It says there's no views on here. It's like brand new video with this guy for optogenetics. Let's check this out while we're waiting for callers.
I'm Dr. Jeff Gorenstein.
I had somebody call me, so I'll call him back and see if that was a caller after the first part of this video. I'll call somebody in case nobody calls. This is very important because this guy's one of the leading guys in
I remember recently being at a scientific meeting
channel rhodopsin
methods, and they say using standard optogenetic techniques, which again is an amazing sentence if you go back just a few years.
We now, using optogenetics, we know the precise patterns of activity that can cause or turn off these sensations, cognitions, and actions. And we can see how they can go awry in disease models. And so everything from anxiety to depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, the circuits involved in schizophrenia, and circuits involved in autism, all of these have now been studied with this millisecond precision of light and the cellular resolution that optogenetics provides.
That's today on Healthy Minds. This program is brought to you in part by
There's so many other methods too, which is just unbelievable. The magnogenetics was blowing my mind, but I still have to research it a lot more to get to be able to produce any kind of video about it. It's so intricate, all the science here. The science. Watch how many times this guy says it.
Today, I speak with Dr. Carl
The science
about a number of new technologies that are creating tremendous advances in our understanding of the brain and potentially treatment of psychiatric conditions.
Also, mind control
Carl,
applications.
thank you for joining us today. 3,000 miles apart, but it's the next best thing to being there.
Great to see you. Yeah, we're getting used to that. I wish I could be there, but hopefully soon.
Absolutely. So I want to jump in and talk about your book, Projections, A Story of Human Emotions. And I want to ask you, what was it like for you to write a book where you really brought together your clinical experience, your research endeavors, and also personal perspectives? What was it like for you to write the book?
Well, I had always wanted to be a writer. That was my first and greatest passion. So it was almost therapeutic, if you will, coming.
It's weird
full
how this
circle
guy
on
talks.
the
He like
course of
verbatim
a big part of my
repeats what
life.
he
I
said
always loved
in the
words.
last
I loved
videos
playing with
from
words
4
and,
years ago.
thinking about how they made me feel and made others feel. But then I got interested in science and medicine.
As though there's been no big
the
giant
years
leaps in
of
optogenetics
all those
recently.
wonderful discoveries, the scientific work sort of caught me up. But then coming back to the writing was an incredible experience
This is
because I
the most
remembered
recent
how much
optogenetics
I
video.
loved it. And it became almost addictive. Each day I would look forward to it. I'd think about the right words to use in the book. And then the whole time thinking about how I could communicate with the public to share the excitement of what was going on in science, but also share these very hard experiences, the internal worlds of patients with psychiatric illness, making that something that was communicable to the public.
I wonder what causes autism.
So
Does anybody know?
Quite a journey, and in the end, it was really thrilling.
The science.
One of the areas of the science that you speak about is optogenetics. So in many ways, optogenetics sounds like science fiction, but it now is real science. Tell us about optogenetics.
Optogenetics is one of the sparks that made this moment in time happen, which was this conjunction of our understanding of our inner worlds with the external progress in neuroscience.
Hacking the human
And what
mind.
optogenetics is, it's a way of using light to probe the inner workings of the brain, but with a twist. It's not the way we think about using light. We think about light as a way of bringing in information, bringing in concepts, ideas, thoughts, images into our brains. Optogenetics does the opposite. It uses light as a tool to control things, to make things happen. And
see how it's repeating the same thing from last time?
Extremely
Isn't that weird?
I'll explain why. Inside the brain, we have a real a beautiful complexity of interconnected cells. Almost 100 billion neurons in the human brain, each of them making 10,000 or more synapses with other cells, connections with other neurons, and they're all aligned. And the cells that do things that are completely different are right next to each other, and they're all electrical in nature. So if you put in an electrode and you stimulate one spot of the brain, you're going to stimulate all the cells that may have totally different jobs, doing completely different things, even opposing each other. And that makes it very hard to understand in the brain, as you know, what's actually making things happen. What are sensations, cognitions, and actions? How are they elicited? How can they go wrong? Very hard to understand what actually matters, what makes things happen. With optogenetics, we use a trick. We make some cells respond to light. Now, normally none of the cells respond to light deep in the brain. There's no light in there anyway. But that's a great situation if one wanted to confer light sensitivity onto some cells but not others, because then you have a way of achieving specificity of control. If you could turn some cells on with light or turn some cells off with light, that would be incredibly powerful. Of course, how do you do that is the question. And it turned out the way to do it that was practical was
turning it off.
Seems almost, as you say, science fiction-like, is to go to microbes, single-celled algae, archaebacteria, ancient forms of life.
Here's the newest
and
stuff.
Take genes, little bits of DNA that encode biomolecules, very special biomolecules called microbial opsins.
Mm-hmm.
These transduce, as we say, light into electricity. These little proteins receive a photon of light and allow ions, charged particles, to pass across the membrane of a cell. That's electricity, bioelectricity, if you will. And that singular job, this turning of a photon into the passage of ions, allows us to use light to turn neurons on or off. And that's the essence of optogenetics. Seems unlikely to work, but turns out it does.
So scary.
First experiment now, 2004 was the first experiment in July, and now it's been more than 17 years, and thousands of laboratories around the world are using it for discoveries.
What led you to come up with that idea? How did you realize to put these things together?
Well, a lot of people were trying. This was the kind of thing that, science is an exciting and unpredictable journey. And the irony is that the microbial opsins are well known. They were understood for a long time to exist. They'd been discovered in 1971 by a couple scientists at the University of California, San Francisco, Dieter Osterheld and Walter Stachenius. And at the same time, you had a thread of neuroscientists, including Francis Crick of DNA structure fame, had been saying in neuroscience we need ways to turn cells on or off selectively. And Crick, in 1999, he even suggested that light would be a good way to do it, but he had absolutely no idea how to do this. He wrote in a paper in the Proceedings of the Royal Society in 1999 that light would be a great way to do it.
We got a viewer.
But this seems far-fetched, he said. The irony
Thumbs
is,
up, yo!
This was 1999 that he wrote that. We would do that first experiment 5 years later in 2004.
Welcome
but the microbial
all.
options had been known since 1971. It was just seemed so unlikely to work that you would be able to take these genes from these microbes all the way across the tree of life, put them into sensitive, delicate, intricate cells in the mammalian brain, and have them work robustly, efficiently, well, have them be a versatile and generalizable strategy. So the first experiment showed that it might work. It was just in a dish, and then it took us about 5 years of hard work, engineering, figuring out how to put all the pieces together. Along the way, we worked hard to understand these proteins a lot more deeply, and that helped us engineer them, turn them into new forms that made them more potent, more effective. We used crystallography, the same sort of tool that Crick used to unlock the double helix structure of DNA, to unlock the structure of these proteins.
Very
these,
advanced
channel
stuff
reductions,
there.
A very potent form of these, and we were able to see how they work, how they allow charged particles to flow across the membrane, and that let us change them into new and powerful configurations. And so it was a lot of beautiful basic science, understanding the proteins themselves, and at the end of the day, we achieved what Crick had asked for, which is we could turn on or off individual kinds of cells, or even single cells, within freely behaving complex mammals.
Dude.
And you could turn them on or off instantaneously by turning on or off the light and see the reaction
Exactly.
For the laboratory animal. And you mentioned that it's used by thousands of labs. And I remember recently being at a scientific meeting where they're describing the methods, and they say using standard optogenetic techniques, which again is an amazing.
It reminds me of Regis Philbin for some reason.
That's right.
Tell us about some of the types of discoveries that are being made using optogenetics.
Oh man.
Yeah, this is one of the most gratifying things has been helping other people use the techniques.
The science.
We've had the DNA,
we need
the
gene
clones, as
therapy.
we call them, to all over thousands of laboratories around the world, and many thousands of papers have been published. But we've also done work in our own lab using these methods. You know, everything you can imagine has now been studied. Primary survival drives, the motivations that are so powerful in animals and that can go wrong in psychiatric disease, aggression, parenting, hunger, thirst, social interaction.
Are you guys hearing that stuff, man? Oh my God. All these different things. Like, they had this one where the mouse just stops eating.
Motivation to
just make
overcome
it stop eating.
challenge, all these
Unbelievable.
basic functions of survival for the animal brain. We now, using optogenetics, we know the precise patterns of activity that can cause or turn off these sensations, cognitions, and actions. And we can see how they can go awry in disease models. And so everything from anxiety to depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, the circuits involved in schizophrenia, and circuits involved in autism, all of these have now been studied with this millisecond precision of light and the cellular resolution that optogenetics provides. It's a little quite remarkable, but also a little disturbing.
Yeah, so they're also using it to map the brain too, which is really important to understand, because they were never able to get into these neural networks as well inside of your brain, inside the tissue. It was always so dark and everything too. And, you know, optogenetics using light, but they also would cut the brain into little tiny thin slices and see using different ways of coloring it with different types of radiation in the tissue. They were able to see what neural synapses were going where and at such a level, it's just
Have
amazing.
a free
So
moving
fast.
mammal, our cousins across the tree of life, like a mouse or a rat, and to see as you play in a precise pattern of activity to precisely defined cells, to see a complex behavior instantly put in place or specifically suppressed.
Oh,
A
it's so
hungry
scary to
animal
watch
no longer
these
caring about
experiments.
food,
We'll
or
watch these in a
a
second.
not hungry animal becoming ravenous. Same thing with thirst, same thing with aggression, violent behavior, or very simple things, simple actions like turning left or turning right. Finally, with neuroscience, with studying the brain, we have this
Turn off
material
the
causal
cliff.
understanding
Oops.
of which connections, which cells
Just a simple
can cause
turn.
or suppress these complex action patterns. But it's a little eerie too, and it raises very interesting,
Ethical.
philosophical and even consideration of ethical issues.
Yeah.
It is extraordinary to think about
When
the
I
fact
found
that
this
in our
video, it was
complicated
under
brains and our
optogenetic
complicated behaviors,
ethics. That's how I
turning
first
on or
found
off
it.
a few cells.
Oh, they're disconnecting me on that one. Oh God. Wow. So my account just disconnected right in the middle of that new video. It's so stupid. Like, oh, I hate how it never does that. It's like, so that is weird. Anyway, survival shield. You guys got to check out the X3, man. X3. I just signed in. Also, what's this website right here? Battleplan.news. That's right. Battleplan.news. That's the new website to go to. Here's the optogenetics webinar. How about we just click on this? I'm sorry, I'm sort of just kind of showing you what new videos have come out about optogenetics real quick, I guess.
Get started.
I'm gonna
Good
call
morning,
somebody
everyone,
that
I
called
guess
me early.
Good afternoon.
Accidentally
Those
posted
of you in Europe,
420
good evening,
on the
those of you
time.
in
It's like
Asia.
set
This
to
is
that
a truly
automatically now.
global event.
It's be 8 o'clock on Fridays,
My
guys.
name is Rafa Juste. I'm the director
I want to show you the
of the
first part of this where it has this
Neurotechnology Center at
military
Columbia
guy call
University.
in.
And I'm
Nothing
talking
to
to
see
you
here.
from New York City,
Here, let
from
me
the
fast forward a little bit.
epicenter of the pandemic.
This is
Our
from
thoughts
2020.
today are
I think it was like right around here. When did they have this guy call in?
This period of uncertainty not only affects our personal livelihoods, but it points to the dire need
Here he is.
for support of the scientific pursuit in general.
This is
And
guys
I
from
also
the
have to say
military that's
legally
calling
that
right
we're
now.
not sponsors of this meeting, but we're actually supporters.
Supporters.
We at the Army Research Lab within the Army Research Office, which is a basic research extramural arm of the Army laboratory. We support basic research opportunities across the globe.
Shit's scaring the shit out of me
actually
sometimes.
looking for scientific opportunities that lead to
Oh
fundamental
my God.
advances across disciplines.
Scientific
So this
opportunities.
and previous
Weaponize. That's all they do is
neurotechnology
weaponize
symposia
science.
were born out of ongoing work
Weaponizing
led by
Fauci.
Rocco and his team of collaborators, multi-investigator team of collaborators, on a project focused on imaging synapses. And this effort was supported by the
Brain initiative by
DoD
Obama.
funding mechanism called the Multidisciplinary University Research Initiative.
That was where all
And
this
it's
really
an initiative that looks
kicked
at
off
emerging
big time.
research opportunities that require multidisciplinary
yes, we can.
approaches. And so it's a pleasure to be here today talking about optogenetics as definitely one of the emerging opportunity spaces, and one where we're excited today to have such a great group of panelists to speak about the state of the art within the field, but also with taking a little effort to look toward the future and seeing and potentially realizing what some of the opportunity spaces that optogenetics can bring.
What are some of those opportunities that optogenetics can bring when you have CRISPR technology? You have, the ability to genetically edit these neural programs, basically these gene editing software, hardware, physical things into the brain to be able to control it with light and magnets now. If you look up magnogenetics, I don't want to get into that right now. You guys need to look up magnogenetics on your own, where you can control large mammals with magnets if you use these gene therapies. Now, luckily, they're saying that large arthropods, like human beings, apes, stuff like that, it's harder to actually get into the brain tissue with these gene editing, different viruses. They get in to actually reprogram. It's recombinant DNA, and it's like they're hacking the human beings. So
it's a pleasure
this
to
guy's
be
from
here.
the military.
I look forward to a great day, and thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Military Dude. You don't scare me at all.
Thank you.
It's not scary.
Thank you for
The military does not weaponize everything they get a hold of.
not officially sponsoring or supporting the meeting, but we all know we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the MIRI program. So heartfelt thanks.
You hear that?
Let me tell you a little bit about the
Very sarcastic, very sardonic behavior going on with these types of people that are in this research field with the military. I mean, you heard that. You heard how they're just sort of, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, working with the military on this kind of stuff. I mean, they could be years in advance in their research and development processes. Like that's what they always do. They always release stuff, to the public after they've already conquered it, because they wouldn't want, other countries getting a hold of this kind of stuff in its most advanced forms. They want everybody to kind of start from scratch where they did, and that's what gets scary with this kind of stuff. Like, how many more of these scientists are out there whistleblowing about all kinds of different issues? There's whistleblower stuff. There's a guy that got 2 million views 6 months ago, Dr. John Campbell. I mean, he's on here talking about ethics and stuff like that. Like, hold on. I don't want to get a copyright strike on that. But yeah, this guy is a whistleblower.
Do on this video, but I've been overwhelmed with
That's
requests to examine this paper here from the British Medical Journal. This report from the British Medical Journal, and this is COVID researcher blows the whistle on data integrity issues in Pfizer's vaccine trial. Now, this does sound pretty concerning, so it is necessary to have a look at it. And the subtitle here, Revelations of Poor Practice at the contract research company helping to carry out Pfizer's pivotal COVID-19 vaccine trial raises questions about data integrity and regulatory oversight. So,
yeah, you think when they basically say, yeah, we're going to wait about 75 years before we tell you guys what happened there. I don't know, maybe that would be cause for concern. Lots of whistleblowers as of late. But yeah, like, there's so much stuff to look up, guys. That's it. The optogenetics really blew my mind, though. Let's go back to that, because it cut me off. Like, I got cut off in the middle of this.
I'm Dr. Jeff Gorenstein.
This guy's really kind of like, he repeats the same thing over and over again, which is weird, I think. Because he has a lot more to say. Like, I'll take your call. Called me earlier, so I'm going to call them in a minute.
In the clinic and
or somebody call me
with inpatient work.
Call. I'm not going to.
I have, despite everything going on, it's something I keep returning to. It matters so much to me. It's something that, admittedly, when I've spent a little time away, a few months away, and I come back to the inpatient work, it can be a little nerve-wracking because I haven't been there for a few months, but then it's immediately, it recharges me with motivation, with energy. I remember, what brought me here, and I remember the need, the human need that's there. It's so
What's weird is I might get more views in this in the next couple days than this actual video. It has no views.
And frustrating, but also
came out like
very
6
interesting.
days ago.
Psychiatric disease has so many
Nobody's
of
watching
these qualities all mixed in together.
That's what also really scares me about
this is something that's guided me.
We need to spread the word about optogenetics and its
decades.
implications.
How can we come to a deeper understanding of these states? And And
You could create
understanding
entire
comes first.
genetically altered armies.
Optogenetics is a wonderful tool for understanding, and that's this nice
Robots.
synergy. I can work in the laboratory, and then I can talk to a human being the next day.
It is just
who's
so
suffering from
sinister
crippling
what you can
anxiety, and I
do, the
can talk about
implications.
the concrete, physical, material elements that we now know cause each of the fundamental elements of anxiety, because we've shown this in the laboratory, a connection from point A to point B causing the respiratory rate changes of anxiety, another connection causing the negative internal subjective state, another connection causing the behavioral avoidance of anxiety, avoiding risky environments.
You guys understand how complex this type of mind control could get, where they can train you to be afraid of something and then turn that off and then turn it back on again whenever they want to? I mean, that
and
kind
this is
of, I mean,
incredibly
that's
helpful for the patients. They
that
have
itself.
this inner state that's been crushing, been debilitating, that nobody understands. It's hard to explain, and I can tell them materially, I now know at this fundamental level, and I can share, and we're talking about it as scientists. We now know that this is very physical, very real, precisely definable, rigorously studyable. And this is incredibly helpful for the patients and for their families. And this is what I hope, understanding is so much of it in psychiatry, just as in years past it was for cancer and for other realms of the human condition that were poorly understood, stigmatized. Now
gene therapy was supposed to really
very
help
clear
out
with
cancer
psychiatry,
research. There's a lot of data on
convergence
that.
of the science and the medicine together.
Now they're using gene therapy to control minds and all this stuff. It's like, dude.
And that matters a great deal to me.
Yeah, I think that, with the example of anxiety that
We
you
need to
give,
stop all gene
it's
therapy
funny that, first of all,
research
no one decides they want to be anxious.
that's on
Because the
human beings
legislature
without their
nobody decides
knowledge.
They want to have cancer. It is something that physically is occurring, and understanding
Right
that
now, we have to
gives
stop the
people,
gene therapy.
in some ways, more
We
control
cannot be
over
testing
their
this on
anxiety
human
or
beings,
other
man.
symptoms that they may have.
This is so unethical.
Yeah, and
Because of these
patients tell me
implications
this, and
We don't know how
it's not that
advanced these
we're,
people are.
Our job is by no means done, but we've cracked open the door. And this is a theme in the book that I return to with each story. The projections as a collection of stories about human experiences in these altered states, and there's the central focus on the human beings, but I try to show the promise and the power of the science and how it brings hope.
The science.
One of the things that you speak about in the book that I found very striking, and it's an example of how the
So
clinical
sick of people
informs the
just saying the
science,
science,
is
man.
in your interactions with a person who has autism and experiences what many people with autism experience, which is difficulty making eye contact, and speaking with that person.
All right, I
and
can't
getting a
listen to
sense
this
of
anymore. I mean, these
why he does that. What's
guys
the
are
reason for
sickos,
that.
man. They
And
know
I'd like you to
exactly
speak a
what the
little bit
hell
about-
causes autism. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain point where I just can't listen to them. So, what was I thinking of a second ago? Like Klaus Schwab. You go on here, and he's got the newer video from the World Government Summit. It's literally called the World Government Summit, guys.
Your Excellencies,
Your
ladies and
Excellency!
gentlemen, it's my great honor
Who the
to participate for the 8th time at this important meeting, even if only in a virtual way. I would like to express my high respect to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for having
X3
taken the initiative for creating
Battleplan.news.
such an important global platform for governments shaping the future. I also want to congratulate Dubai for having organized
Governments shouldn't
such a
shape the future, the
successful
people
World
should
Expo,
shape the future.
despite all the
There are elected
repercussions of the
representatives.
global pandemic.
There are
Last
servants.
November,
They shouldn't be
in
shaping
partnership with His
shit.
Excellency Mohammed Al Gargawi, we brought together
Oh my
60
God, this guy's
top intellectual thinkers
this guy's
here
such
in
a
Dubai.
freaking Nazi. Listen to
Thank
this
you
guy.
to His Excellency for enabling this initiative
Thank
to
you,
define
Your
a long-term
Excellency.
narrative to make the world more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable. With all the current issues on our agenda, we tend to forget that we are
Nothing
in
to
the
read
midst
into there.
of the fourth industrial revolution, which accelerates global change, comprehensive
What could he be
than
talking
the
about?
previous revolutions. I'm proud
I am
that the
proud.
government of Dubai has been so foresighted in establishing a Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution in cooperation with the World Economic Forum. The objective is to quickly recognize the potential of new technologies as well as develop the necessary ethical and political frameworks around those new technologies to ensure that those technologies are human-centered and society-oriented. The world has to overcome not only the damage done to our economies and our societies by COVID-19, it also has to confront the repercussions of a dangerous clash between major global powers.
Oh.
History is truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full
A little
extent
country called
and
Russia.
the systemic and structural changes
It's not all planned out.
However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
Oh, they will be deeply
In times of
impacted.
crisis, the role of governments is more important and more relevant than ever.
You mean you knew the whole
What is
time?
also needed is a summit like this one to go beyond crisis management and to look into constructive ways we can build our common future.
Constructive ways.
Are intrinsically
We will augment the
connected
human
to
beings
one another.
with the gene
As
therapy.
profound challenges to mankind, such as climate change, are globally interconnected and require
Geoengineering.
responses. In conclusion, and despite all the challenges,
SRM
we have
programs.
to uphold our responsibility, which we have towards the next generation, and which we can only fulfill through collaboration on a national and on a global level.
The
I
global,
wish
of
you
course.
an impactful and successful meeting.
Oh, God. How scary is this guy? Like, on a level of 1 to 10, honestly, though. I mean, he's about an 11 of creepy Nazi stereotype. So we'll go... What do you guys think? Should I do the call real quick? Let's do... Someone called earlier. And I'm going to call you here. Let's see. Alright. It's a 614 number. So it seems pretty safe for me to call. Call him right now. Remember, guys, the number is 614-372-5102. Call in. I can't bite you over the phone. Okay. They'll probably not answer. Maybe they had a thing to do. Who knows? Well, they are not answering the phone. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Well, it gets into like, what is the Great Reset? This is the World Economic Forum telling us. I love these little mini videos that they make,
radically change the world as we know it. And the actions we take today as we work to recover will define our generation.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis.
2020 has been challenging on a lot of levels, as economic, environmental, and societal frailties have been laid bare. But it's also that when we need to, we can act rapidly and restructure our lives.
History's written by the winners, right? Let's win this, guys.
we can see rays of hope in the form of a vaccine. But there is no vaccine for the planet. Nature needs a bailout.
There's no vaccine, period.
You don't want to go back to the status quo that you had before simply because it was the status quo that got us here.
Whoa! Was that not creepy? Oh, there you go. Building collapsing on its own.
Address so many of the challenges we face.
They love that.
And that's why so many are calling for a great reset. A great reset? That sounds more like buzzword bingo masking some nefarious plan for world domination.
Oh,
Hands up. This
you think? And then they are the ones saying
All we really want
it. I didn't say it.
We all have an opportunity to build a better world.
They said it.
And it's not surprising that people who
over the shoulder coffin. What does that mean? Guys, look that up.
Will suspect global leaders of
Freemason.
But the world's not that simple.
Connected.
Every one of us has differing priorities, values, and ideas. That's part of why solutions are so hard to come by, and why we all need to be involved in the decision making. Because whether it's politicians, CEOs,
we're all involved in the decision-making process, guys.
We're all about getting people together, even those you may not like, to sit down at the table and develop solutions that work for all of us. But
enormous trust between the private sector and the public sector for this to actually work.
Trust.
Trust is hard to come.
Trust, guys.
It's time for people to work together, listen to each other, and
sustainability, man.
So
right.
we can move towards a better world.
You have to trust but
and
verify.
Really one. Because while the pandemic affects us
that's
all,
what I would say.
It's clear it affects some more than others.
The first people who are hit are the people at the front, those who are vulnerable.
Nobody's calling in. You guys should call in, man. It'd be a lot more fun. Be more,
See, at the start of 2020,
be more comprehensive. I want to get your guys' questions on what you guys want to see.
And since the start of the pandemic,
this is the kind of stuff I've been looking at as of late.
25%, whilst 150 million people fell back into extreme poverty. And with climate change set to dwarf the damage caused by the pandemic.
How about lockdowns cause poverty? More poverty than you could ever imagine.
As we know it is dead. This obsession that we have had with maximizing profits for shareholders alone has led to incredible
the elite love socialism, let me tell you. The elite, the banker class.
But no one can do this alone. And top-down approaches won't
Weather weapons
anywhere,
are very,
because
very
everything
real.
we've learned in our work has shown us that diverse voices
Ben
lead
Livingston,
to results.
the father of weather
And
weapons.
it's for these reasons that the forum talks about something called stakeholder capitalism, which would shift businesses away from just profit. Because
if we want to change where the focus of our recovery will go, then we need a new dashboard for the new economy. And that needs to encompass people, planet, prosperity, and institutions.
Giving people a real stake in the economy.
Whatever the fuck that means.
Well-being before growth.
Do you
And
mean
that's all about getting the right
no more
people
capitalism?
in the right place at the right time.
That means like you don't basically get to keep your own. You don't have anything. You have nothing of your own.
We have a
And
window
you're
of
happy
time which
too.
is closing, and we need everybody who cares to get together and find solutions now.
It's the people who have great ideas.
Oh, I
and can
hate
share them with others.
these people, man.
They're the ones who are shaping the future.
They're so
if you want to
obviously
be part of the change,
conspiring
then tune in,
together
turn on and get involved.
with all this stuff
Follow the Davos agenda.
that's going on that we're
Right
not
here,
allowed to talk
online,
about.
on YouTube.
Such obvious fraud. And the way they perpetuate their fraud, and the way they use the fraud as catalyzing events, and the way they have contingency plans just in case their frauds happen to go and actually be real time. Like instead of just being a drill, you know how all these drills always turn into real live time events. Like Event 201. You're not allowed to talk about Event 201 for obvious reasons. Highlights World Government Summit from 2019. I mean, they've been doing this. If you just keep watching Klaus Schwab stuff, I mean, maybe that will eventually reach your brain cells. If people that are watching this don't understand who Klaus Schwab is, here it is. This is basically it.
Even if the pandemic has forced us to reschedule our traditional in-person Davos meeting for early summer, it is essential at the beginning of this crucial year 2022 to to define the state of the world and the priorities going forward in addressing the most important challenges for our interconnected global humanity.
It's all about interconnectivity. That's the globalist model. And just getting rid of any independence. It's all about interdependence, really. Let's go. I want to see you guys call in. Let's maybe look at magnogenetics a little bit. We'll go into the evolution of optogenetics. This is not technically that. I mean, it technically has to be the genetic modification of something that then propels them into being controlled by magnets. And I don't see it. That's the thing. I have to find it on my search engine little search bar before I do the videos. That's the problem. That's why I was saying I'm not really sure I can present that yet. But guys, look up magnogenetics on your own too. I'm trying to get this video to last an hour. Let's just talk, man. Like, I'm just gonna talk because we're headed into this point now in the world where we have this great reset and stuff, and like they're admitting, and the monetary policy is going to change. And there's this book by Byron Dale called Switch that I'm going to read. I'm going to read this on my next video. I'm actually just going to release a not a live stream, but me just reading this, because this is so important right now. How these money systems, how these central banks have always created, mountains of debt, unpayable, and then switched from one type of currency to another for more control. Oh, we got a call. All right. Hey, we got a call. I'm going to put you on right now. All right, talk as loud as you can, because I got this phone from the thrift store today, and it has a speakerphone, but it's like the one that connects to the main thing that you plug in. So I wasn't able to plug it in. And there's a train going by right now. So you got to really talk loud. I'm going to close the window, but talk for the audience real quick, okay? It is so loud. Anyway, sorry.
Window closed?
You're fine. I can hear you great. Go ahead. You're live.
Curious about your thoughts on something that Alex Jones was talking about the other day, because I saw you got the InfoWars stickers up everywhere. I was wondering if you heard what he said.
On what exactly?
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, his show is, I've been watching that since 2005, 2006, so, yeah, like, what specifically did he say, though? That's my question.
Well, he was talking about ape holders using multiple slurp juices on a single ape.
Using multiple smart what? There's a train going by.
Ape holders, that they can use multiple slurp juices on a single ape. So, like, if you've got one astral ape and 3 slurp juices, you can create 3 new apes.
Okay, you just want me to say what's a slurp juice, right? What is that? Because I don't know.
It's the slurp juice. It's part of the mint event. That's essentially a minting event for both like lab monkeys and like the special forces.
Okay, so it's something that you can actually create clones from, like sort of like a template.
Right, because what he was saying is, if you've got one astral ape and you apply the 3 slurp juices, you can create 3 new ones, I guess.
Wow. So that's weird. I wouldn't know that much. Would that be for long space travel, so you could have backup armies of space monkeys? Is that what you're talking about? Because
that's what I was trying to see if you understood it better than I did, because I only caught like a portion of the show.
I didn't catch that part of the show. I don't watch Alex every day as of late. I've been working a lot. So I usually, if I...
Where do you work?
Well, I do all kinds of different stuff, man. It's like my own customers. So I don't really work for...
I would suggest you go into interior decorating. You got a cool setup there.
Oh yeah, nah, it's cool. I love how, you know, symmetry, everything is geometric. And like that, the Star of David basically, you know, I think was an ancient symbol that expressed scientific deep understandings that we're just now understanding today. You know, where you can solve all the Feynman diagrams of quantum physics using geometry instead of actual mathematical processes. Like, you know, you look at different scientists like Einstein and his light speed variable equation, you can flip it from the top to the bottom. Like a variable equation is interchangeable from the top to the bottom. It still makes sense. And when he says you go light speed and you become infinitely massive, when you flip that, what is that? That's you actually losing mass. So that's for what all the scientific experiments I've seen in the lab, that's what's really going on in the Black Ops community, is they have a deep understanding of this physics, that they know time is three-dimensional. They know through Einstein, Tesla, all these different geniuses of their time, that actually Tesla and Einstein worked together on the Rainbow Project. And that was like the Philadelphia experiment, if you look that up. Which is, you know, you're taking atoms, you're speeding them up past the speed of light in the ship, and it's able to actually lose mass. And the sailors reported actually going through this weird, like they called it time-space too. Like where they said time's three-dimensional, and when you're in time-space, you're a light wave. And that's what makes time travel possible. When you become a light wave, you're actually able to travel through this three-dimensional multiverse. Like they have that new Doctor Strange movie coming out, the mad multiverse or whatever, Doctor Strange. They put that stuff out there as sort of like a conditioning tool for the population to sort of get used to this new paradigm of physics. I'm all about new paradigms, paradigm shifting, getting us on whatever page we're supposed to be on at this current time. And from what I've seen so far, from all the research I've done on that kind of stuff, they're 50, 60 years ahead of us. So all this stuff, you know, with that juice stuff for the apes and stuff, could be just little sprinkles they're giving us, you know, to sort of season us, get us a little bit more prepared for that paradigm that is inevitable, because of these physics experiments can't be contained much longer. All the Russian physicists, like Kozyrev, all the, you know, Vladimir Budakovsky, that guy did these raspberry experiments where you actually see the tumors in the raspberry, and he would take a holographic image of the raspberry and store it in a holographic template of the DNA molecule when it's healthy, of the cell, and actually have that stored holographically, and then you shine, I think it was green laser light, into the cancerous, tumorous part of the raspberry plant, and it heals. And it takes a day to actually fully heal back, to regenerate, basically, regrow back its former self. Like, look up Budakovsky. Look up all these Russian physicists talking about torsion field physics. This is the kind of stuff our Black Ops military people know about that is being systematically taken out. Just like how the Templars would go around and cover up statues and tear down different things that would point to there being sort of an antediluvian society. Basically, ancestors that were around before 12,000 years ago, that were technologically advanced enough to create the pyramids. And the Sphinx, I mean, look at how, like, there's all that research going on with that. The Sphinx was, like, has rain weathering, and it was facing the constellation Leo. If you do these computer mapping, diagrams, these simulations that show where the stars were 12,000 years ago or so, when it was the age Leo, it would have perfectly faced it on the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And it's like, whoa, like all these different discoveries of now, they're basically saying, yeah, they had to have been around, and there had to have been a flood, and that flood had to have wiped these people out in such a crazy way where we just lost everything. We had it all before, and it's all sort of just being rediscovered. Like that Star of David, like I was saying, it's an ancient symbol. It's describing stuff that they just found out in 2013. The Nima Arkani Hamed and Yaroslav Trunka guy that I talked about in a video a couple years ago, that they're from Caltech, and they hacked the Feynman diagrams through using this amplituhedron. If you look up the amplituhedron, like basically imagine a three-dimensional form of the Star of David, and that's called a Merkaba. And this tetrahedral shape, it has one pyramid facing up and one pyramid facing to the side, sort of like those two bottom corners of the Star of David. That's what the amplituhedron looks like. It's basically just two tetrahedrons. And that's what sort of Jim Carrey, remember Jim Carrey had a big meltdown on the red carpet, and he was saying that everything's tetrahedrons, man, you know, and like Illuminati, all these secret teachings and stuff, they're taught to these celebrities behind the scenes. Like the Kabbalah, all that kind of stuff, you know, basically all this druidic magic. You get back to like Roman magic ceremonies that they would have. That was Mithraism. If you look at Mithraism, that would sacrifice a bull. They would stab it with a giant spear after putting all of their sins onto the bull. And that's what sort of eventually evolved into these other like Freemasonic traditions. You know, the Templars, they would all do this. They would all have a scapegoat, a blood ceremony where they would have a sacrifice. They would, you know, like Hollywood, you look up Illuminati blood ritual sacrifice on YouTube, look up this channel Stranger Than Fiction, that he's a Christian. I really like that guy. I'm not a Christian myself. I'm just spiritual. I've had a lot of spiritual encounters in my life. That's the whole definition of spirituality, spiritualism, is that somebody actually sees spirits and actually encounters them. And I'm in that category. I've had that kind of thing happen to me, where like I was an atheist before, after I went, because I went to Catholic school. I'm probably going to have one of my old friends call in. Nick Quillette, if you're watching this, call in. We went to Catholic school together, man. And like, there was all kinds of weird stuff going on in Catholic school, dude. Like, but the bottom line was religion class, you don't ask questions, you know what I mean? Like, you answer everything the way they want you to answer it. And there was the whole idea of, you know, having an altar, drinking the blood of Christ, eating the body, all that stuff. That is, you know, it never set in. I didn't take my, you know, what do you call it? I did the first communion, and then you're supposed to do the other one where you're supposed to actually have like a second middle name. I forget what it was. I had this voice in my head tell me, I think it's commended or something like that. I'll have to look that up again. But it was like something weird where you had to basically full out have an oath where you pledge allegiance to the church, you know. And I just had that voice in my head telling me, walk out. And, you know, I never really went back to church that much after that. Like, I kind of dropped out of it. My friends told me, like, you got to question things more. Look into the Bible, but look outside of the box too, kind of deal. And that led me on this giant, huge adventure of knowledge and wisdom and all these different teachings, like from other cultures too, that basically all teach the same thing. And then when you break all that down, you know, like pagan, it's just the people that have multiple gods rather than just monotheism. And monotheism, like in ancient Egypt, they even had Akhenaten, and he created the first, you know, sun worship. It was like the first monotheistic sort of religion of its time that we love of record. And it's like the guy does not look human if you do the research here. That's why I got the Egypt thing over there. I really dig, you know, Egyptology, what these people were into, like electricity, all kinds of stuff. The Egyptians.
What about the, I got a question about something else.
Yeah.
Why haven't you taken down the Christmas lights yet? It's May.
I know. No, those are, they're kind of, it's like the whole optogenetics thing. I wanted to keep them up.
All right.
It's light, dude. They're controlling mice, not just with light anymore. The newer forms of optogenetics led into magnegenetics, where you can control a mouse with magnets. And it's more of a heat thing. Oh, he hung up. It's where they stimulate it using the magnets. Because in electricity 101, you got magnetic induction, and there's sodium in the brain tissue, and I think there's a response there where it creates a synapse that way, and I'm still researching that aspect of it still, so don't quote me on that. But magnegenetics is like so advanced. I'm studying that right now, and it's like, you know, how far back does like mind control, all this kind of stuff go? Even just recently, they've had all kinds of new forms of mind control with these giant, huge corporations like Twitter, Facebook, you know, algorithms, you know, seeing what you click on, why, when, how, getting it all processed. And the reason they make so much money selling the data is because they're feeding AI. It's like Short Circuit, that movie. You know, Johnny Five, he needs more data. He's got to read. He just reads the books like this, like, and just rips through them. And that was sort of an ode to AI, like how eventually you would have to feed this thing unlimited amounts of data, pretty much. Like, you know, Rain Man on steroids kind of deal, like that, but in a total control kind of way, where they call it full spectrum dominance. They have, you know, future algorithms where they're able to predict the future and all this weird stuff with Google and Alphabet. You know, these giant, huge corporations behind the corporations. You know, they are all talking about, you know, typing hands-free, that kind of stuff. Like the 6G would basically be like the internet in your head. Basically, that's the next step. That's what all the optogenetics, all this other stuff would eventually, you know, everything's going into your brain, dude. That's like one of the main points of this show here is it's all about the brain, the human brain. 24/7. That's all these guys are doing is studying us. We're the most studied creature on the planet for a reason, because they need to be able to control us. And, you know, it's easier to control that which you know a lot about. Even these scientists about optogenetics are like, we have to tell more people. The guy had no views on the damn video I just showed. He should have millions and millions of views. It's been out for 6 days. I'm the only one clicking on it. Alex Jones, dude, SOS, you have not talked about optogenetics yet. You know? Nobody's talking about it that needs to be talking about it, to warn people about the possible detriment that it could create of a total robot slave race controlled by lights and this, hypnotic trance. That's what I see. I see these people wearing those, Oculus Rifts, walking in a maze. It's all I see. Strapped on, born with some Oculus Rift type thing. Who knows that what you could do with genetics? I mean, I don't want to give them any ideas too, because that's the thing here. Like, I've done enough research. I don't want to give them any ideas on ways to. And I'm not even going to talk about that here, because it's like the human mind has already been sort of hacked spiritually. We know how the third eye works, the pineal gland, that in medical books it's called the epiphysis gland, like an epiphany. And the pineal gland is the link, the missing link in most science textbooks. Like, it is the foundation for dream states. It's the foundation for your mood. Most your everything that you actually visualize in your mind is coming from that gland that's connected to the visual cortex of the brain through the phototransduction cascade, which is like this neural pathway that allows photons to stream into the visual cortex. It's all holographic mind. That's how it really works. It's not about the synapses per se. It's all about that pineal gland, and that's, I'm afraid they're going to get into. I might as well just talk about it now. Who cares? They probably already know all about it. Dr. Nick Sand, how they can DMT in the laboratory creates light photons. You could the human brain already has a form of bioluminescence. So, you could use, they're saying you can control dreams, you can control memory using optogenetics. Control dreams. Could you imagine, like Freddy Krueger? Somebody, and they even said, the future will have us basically playing somebody else's dream like a video game, and it'll be fun. Your friend will lay down, they'll go to sleep out, you'll be out in the field somewhere, you'll put on your little space helmet, and you'll be able to control their dreams. And this is what they're saying. That's not what I said. This is what they're saying. Who knows how far they've already gotten with it. I've had trippy dreams, man, in my day. And I guess I'll just leave it there. We had a good call today. That was awesome. I gotta rewatch this, look at what the guy was talking about, and then do some research on it. And go to General Shepherd channel, guys. General Shepherd. And watch Alex Jones on YouTube. Shh, don't say that. All right, guys. All right, have a good one. I'm out. I'll see you guys next Friday.